On this Freaky Friday, you already know we at work decided to hop on, chop it up with individuals. He was the talk of the town. Is going down the one in the curve. You heard me. Here in Southern California, it is a gloomy day, cloudy day. It feels good to be out of the heat, to be honest with you. We were stuck in that heat wave for too long. So a little bit of change in, weather. We don't seem to mind. I mean, it's not raining, so it's just fresh. I mean, it looks ugly outside, but it's fresh. Because that heat wave, man, that was no joke. No joke. But I wanted to, hop on, chop it up with the folks and the lokes. See what's good with everybody. What's cracking like a little rich? What's good, carnal? Climate change. Serio. But don't tell Trump that. That was going to say, it's not true. This guy just took a lot of Tylenol. The Tylenol has evaporated into the sky. But evaporation is fake. What's cracking like in there? What you getting yourself into, my boy? The homie Mr. Pasa is definitely up in the casa for the raza. Oh, everything's feeding me, my boy. You already know we chilling. Posted like a stamp. That's right, getting ready to get that payday. Mayday, mayday. Autism is a spectrum. I know, my boy, but, Donald Trump, he thinks it's like the common cold. Donald Trump views it as kind of like having the fucking chicken pox. How did this man become president? I wonder how the fuck he even gets dressed, to be honest with you. Somebody has to dress him. Hey, I hope that motherfucker thinks his dad every single day, bro. Because if it wasn't for his father, my boy would be in serious. Because, holy fuck. I don't know what's more sad, just him or the people that believe him. So you think El Salvador should let their gangs keep doing what they're doing? No. And you know what? That's another point that I always see that's wrong with politics, in my personal opinion. People feel like for example, like the right feel like it should be 100. Enslave these individuals. Enslave them. Cage them up forever. The Democrats feel like, nah, well, they shouldn't get no time. You should just let them, be, and we can fit. No. There's a middle ground. There's a middle ground of fixing the problem without, taking advantage of these individuals' human rights. You get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. What's cracking like in Dashpool? What's good, my boy? What do you think about the head of the Homeland Security said? What do you think about the Homeland Security? What did he say? What about the families who can't even walk outside because they're too scared. What do you mean though? No, but see, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't mean leaving the individuals that are breaking the law. Let's say example, individuals that are committing crime. Yes, arrest them, lock them up. But what I'm saying is what El Salvador's doing is not that. It was doing that, but it's not just that, right? It's arresting any individual who has any type of tie to any type of group, right? See, but the problem with that is that you don't know who's a participant, like an active individual, compared to someone who's left their life behind or is choosing to change his ways. You get what I'm saying? That is my issue with how El Salvador's handling the situation. Not so much that they're arresting gang members, right? But the fact that in the process of that is that they're violating it. You get what I'm saying? Like when you start just now removing the due process of individuals and just rounding up individuals because you think they might commit crimes or you think they might be a member of a group or because they once had, ties to a group. That in itself to me is blowing. So it's like, so people can't change. So are people telling me that people can't change and people don't make mistakes? Is that what people are telling me? Not if the mistake is joining a gang? Trump is in the Epstein documents. Prove me wrong. Oh, no, yeah, for sure. For sure he's in that motherfucker, bro. Shit. You gotta be a fool to think that he's not in there. I'm willing to bet my life that he's in that motherfucker. Now, I'm not saying that the individual was doing all this wild shit, but I know for a fact that that motherfucker is in there and that's been to that island. Look at Mexico now with the cartels. What about it though? And America with the street gangs, and Japan, and Asia, and anywhere it's not just you have that problem existing all over the world. The Russian mafia in Russia, the Yakuza, the ISIS, Afghanistan, Al Qaeda, the Taliban. Yeah, I know. Lawless groups have existed throughout the history of man. Pirates were considered the same thing as, these gangs, lawless individuals that would, go to villages and plunder and kill and rape and steal. Same with these crusades that didn't want to follow in line to, Caesar's, rule. They had symbols, they had colors, they had nicknames, they had territories. Yeah, has always existed. And the worst of punishments have always existed too. They will, have individuals feed into lions, trampled by elephants. The worst punishments you can think of, and individuals still broke the law. One thing that people haven't tried is actually like understanding therapy, counseling. That's one thing people haven't tried. And I don't know why they're so reluctant to even give it a chance, or even the thought of it. Nah, fuck that. That's not gonna work. What about other research that shows that it has work in progress in individuals that seek therapy and counseling? Nah, that's a hoax. Well, I mean, it's done with science. Nah, that's just fake. Like, what? You get sick, don't you go to the hospital and get medicine by the doctor and everything? Yeah, they find all of that with science. I know. This is also done with science. Yeah, but see, that science is different. Don't believe one science, you're not gonna believe. Okay, I guess. Never ceases to surprise me. Like whenever it's like, involves emotions in the matter, right? All of a sudden they just refuse to listen to the science. Like, what do they know? Oh, I mean, they didn't only go to the best universities in the world, being taught by the greatest minds on this planet, but I'm gonna listen rather to some guy who works at a liquor. When you get individuals, like I said, that don't have the credentials, but say that therapy and counseling doesn't work. And it's like, oh, really? Hey, my boy, where'd you get your degree at? Oh, I never went to college. What? But these people are wrong, and you who have no degree is right. Oh, interesting. The trip. If Trump didn't have a successful father, he would be the guy working. No, I don't think he would be able to have a job. She says she's gonna target them and deport them. Well, I mean, if they're illegals, then I mean, she should. I mean, that's her job. If they're here illegally and they're breaking the law, then yes, they should be deported. Yeah, true, 100. Like nobody is out there protesting that for individuals like that not to be deported, right? You know, the problem that people have with the deportation is that they're deporting individuals that are not gang members that are actually hardworking citizens. That's the issues. It's just that the right, you know, doesn't want to say it like that because it's not beneficial, right? Both sides use the scare tactics with their propaganda, you know, because the left also does that a lot. See, like the left's idea of Trump is like Trump wanted to become president to fucking destroy America, to completely destroy America. When that's not fucking true. He's destroying America in the process, but that's not what it's not what he wanted to do. That wasn't his plan. It's just unraveling like that. But there's a difference though. There's a big difference though. Compared to he actually wanted to do something better, right? Compared to he's just incompetent. By the way, I've been keeping up with updates on the case. Apparently, they found CCTV footage of her running away from home. Oh no, yeah, she ran away from home. I think that was stated by the family, no, by her family. Her family had said she ran away. No, we know she ran away. You know, I'm pretty sure that law enforcement knows that she ran away, that she knows that individual, that they were probably dating. I'm pretty sure that they are aware of all of that, and they, you know, probably, you know, piece that together. What they're just trying to do is figure out how does she end up dead, and if this guy had a role to play in that, like connecting that together is what they're gonna focus in on. Not so much about like, you know, if she ran away or if they were dating. More about like how do we know, you know, like where's the evidence connecting these motherfuckers to the actual crime. Mexico lets them do whatever they want. Now, no, see, but that's not true either, though. That in itself is not a true, like, it's not based on facts. It's not so much that they let them do what they want, like they just let the cartels do whatever they want, right? It's just that there's a lot of corrupt individuals, right? Corruption is a problem in Mexico. Not to say that there isn't individuals that actually, you know, had been fighting against the cartels, had been actually trying to solve the problem. You know what I mean? It's not like everyone's on board and yeah, let's just let them do whatever they want. And, you know, the thing is that tackling the problem when there's so much corruption and people are getting paid off, how do you tackle a problem like that? Like, let's say when you're trying to bring them down, if people are paying them off to look the other way, how do you round them up if the very individuals you're sending to round them up are getting paid to let them slide? Then how do you you get what I'm saying? The reason why in Mexico it happens that way compared to El Salvador is that the cartels generate more money, more revenue than street gangs do, like 18 and MS. They'll generate, you know, money from drug sales and stuff like that, but they're not as profitable as like the cartels in the massive scale of, you know, sales of drugs throughout the whole entire world, you know, with their connections. So they bring in, and we're talking about a gang of money they're bringing in, right? So they're able to pay these individuals. While in El Salvador, those street gangs don't make that type of money where they're able to pay law enforcement to look the other way. Right? That's why their corruption scandal isn't as bad as Mexico's. Because, I mean, well, they're not offering, I guarantee you if these individuals were offering the police officers in El Salvador the amount of money like Mexico does, these cops would just be looking the other way as well. Because if you're willing to offer these police officers more money than they would make in years without risking their lives, they're going to take it because they're tired of living in poverty. That's the problem with dealing with these kind of problems when we're talking about countries like this, where the work is scarce and, you know, the poverty is high. and the law enforcement don't get paid that much money, and they're actually out there sacrificing their lives every single day. You can see why it's so easy for them to fall into look the other way. They have families, right? They want to see their families succeeding and prosper, right? So they're being offered money that they'll never be able to see in their lifetime, right? Most individuals will take it. Not saying all, but a lot of people would. That is the problem. Renegade made his story about my city. Oh, did he? See, the problem with Renegade's view on the matter, right, is that like how he views the subject. But if he was to be in El Salvador, he would be incarcerated. They would incarcerate him, even though he's changed his life around. He's no longer into that, but they wouldn't care. He has ties to a street organization. He has tattoos. So for all they know, he's still involved. For all they know, he could just be lying, saying he changed his ways. That is how El Salvador operates. That is the problem with the way they operate, is that this guy over here has changed his life, but they're not going to care to hear that, Nah, we can't take the risk. That is the problem that people have with El Salvador's way of running things. Is that this guy changed, man. He's a good guy. He's trying to be a father, trying to work, make a decent living. Nah, he has tattoos. He used to look at all the crimes he's committed throughout his life. We can't take the chance. We can't take that chance. What if he reoffends? What if he changes his mind and decides to still be, in the mix? No, we're not having that. You see why that could be a problem? You get me? So why should individuals even try to change if they're still going to be, booked the same? Like, what are you providing these individuals of why they should rehabilitate themselves? Like, what are you offering for these individuals to actually fix their problems? Nothing. Look, most serial killers, right, in their childhoods, their adolescence, they were misbehaved children, right? What did their families do? Like, if you look at some of the extreme cases, like, let's say, Ted Bundy or John Gacy and individuals like that, they were tortured, they were whipped, they were beaten, they would, get cigarette burn marks on them, they were fed dog food, and they were starved. They had to sleep outside in the doghouse. And did their behaviors change? No. What happened? Their behavior got worse, is what happened. They didn't now change and comply to their parents' wishes. They just became angrier and angrier as the time went by, more disturbed. Did you know that inside that prison, right? The prison that's the prison of the prisons of prisons. Look at their death rate. Murders are being committed in that prison, and by a large amount. Just look that up. Look up that statistic. You get what I'm saying? What happened? And let's say it was this individual's first time offender. Let's say the crime wasn't even extreme, right? It was something, maybe he just didn't have money and, he just wanted to steal some food. I don't know. You know what I mean? Now you're sending them to a prison like this, right? Where now they could be corrupted by actual hardened gangsters, criminals, and killers, right? So instead of rehabilitating him, now you're just gonna feed him to the wolves. What about their families? They care about them. That's still somebody's child, brother, cousin. What about they shouldn't matter? See, the problem is that thinking that somebody who makes a stand like this is saying, nah, you should just let them do whatever they want. When it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying either. You know what I mean? And I find it strange that people can't see the middle ground. It's either one way or the highway. Like, no, incarcerate these individuals if they're breaking the law. If they're breaking the law, not if they're gonna break the law. Because it's like, How do we know that this individual's gonna break the law? Like, oh no, like trust me, just look at them. Like, no, well, anybody could be pushed like that. There's people that have killed their families that nobody had ever suspected that they would have done that. They look like a happy family. Say a husband and wife have an argument. They've been drinking. You know, the argument gets out of control, and the guy ends up killing his wife. Nobody would have suspected him to be a murderer, to be pushed like that. But shit happens, right? But now we're gonna just go based off of they might commit a crime, though. Well, anybody might commit a crime. Anybody might do that. Anybody in this world is, could be potentially pushed to committing a crime. People don't know, right? But assume on some and not on others. And then what about change, right? But then that flags something though. They create the problems, but then they're mad when the problems are here, though. What always blows my mind? That people focus so much on like this, right? Like they want the problem fixed. Like, how do we get rid of MS and 18 and gangs like that? Like, how do we get rid of the gang problem? Like, let's just round these guys up and imprison them. And that way they just rot forever there. Yeah, but what about new individuals now coming in their place? New criminals being born, new gang members being born. Because just because you incarcerated these individuals doesn't mean that now people being born are not going to be criminals and gangsters. People always say gangsters make gang members. They pollute these guys and they corrupt these guys. Gangsters make gangsters. Okay. But gangsters haven't always existed. So what made the first batch of gangsters? If gangsters make gangsters and gangs and corruption is what makes it, then what produced the first batch of gangs before there wasn't any gangs? What created those gang members? And could that not be the very same thing that's been creating the gangsters this whole entire time? Right? Instead of focusing so much on these individuals, why don't we focus and spend our resources and money in why do individuals want to become gang members? Why do individuals choose to break the law? How about we focus in on that problem? You want to tackle the drug problem? Instead of focusing on the drug dealers, why don't you focus on why people want to buy drugs? Why do people want to do drugs? How about we focus the research and efforts in tackling that problem and all the resources in that? People don't want to do drugs. What are the drug dealers going to do? Nothing. They got to find a new form of business. This business is no longer lucrative. They got to find a new hustle. People don't want to get into gangs. What happens to the established gangs? Well, exactly. Nobody wants to be a gang member no more. Right? Nah. They get these gang members, throw them in the prisons. New gang members come and take their place. They arrest these drug dealers, put them in prison. New drug dealer comes and takes their place. They arrested El Chapo, a victory for the tackle on drugs. What changed? Not a damn thing. Actually, as a matter of fact, the drug problem has actually skyrocketed. What exactly changed when they rounded up El Chapo? Not a fucking damn thing. The drug epidemic's still out of control. You wouldn't have even been able to tell that they arrested El Chapo. You can't even tell. So what victory was that? They keep arresting these gang members and putting them in prisons. Yet you still see a bunch of gang members out there. And graffiti everywhere. But at least this way people are satisfied. It satisfies, well, at least their illusion. Like, yeah, that's what these motherfuckers get for breaking the law. Fuck yeah. They want to satisfy their frustration. They don't actually want the problems fixed. They just want to feel happy about the matters, right? Like, yeah, that's what they get. Fuck them all. Where's the compassion? Where's the humanity? Where's the kindness that people always tell that these individuals need to show? And that they should just put their differences aside. And that they should come with understanding. Then they should, like, where's that there? Like, what about them? Hey, sometimes we all got to be the bigger people, the bigger person. Exactly. Take your own advice. But here, now because it was an act done in your area or affected you, all of a sudden you're just like, fuck that, kill them. I hope they die. I hope they suffer. Where's the humanity? Where's all that shit that you're always preaching? Oh, see, all of that mattered until it affected me. Now all of a sudden you're gonna think like them, but you hate them because of the way that they are and think. But now you're thinking and acting the same way as them. Interesting. Renegade was basically selling his wife on OnlyFans. He got no legs. Turn on his no morals. Well, I don't know about all that. I'm not aware of all of that other stuff, right? And nor was it an attack on like him directly, right? I was just merely shedding my point of view on the discussion on this matter, on this, like on the subject that we're talking about, the El Salvador stand. Not so much about like the other stuff, that stuff that I don't I don't care for, right? But I think he feels some type of way about these individuals because of his situation, right? I don't know what the situation may be, right? I don't know exactly what he's going through, right? Um, but obviously, that drives his arguments sometimes. Because if he were to be in El Salvador, he would be incarcerated. And then he would be like, nah, man, this is abuse of power. Hey, why are they, doing this? Why are they handling it like this? Exactly. I like the Boy Scouts. People suck, people don't change. Nah, people change. People do change. See, but it's thinking that people don't change or that society in itself is hopeless, right? When you think like that, then you don't care to see the progress, and you don't care to see the change, and you don't care to see the rehabilitation. You're always going to be looking for the ugly and the negative instead of focusing on the. And when you only focus on the negative, then it doesn't allow you to see the goodness in the world. You know, for every bad, videos that you see out there, people being on drugs and all this violence and everything, you can find a lot of video about the humanity in people, right? People helping each other, people doing good deeds, just humanity in individuals. But if you choose to just not focus in on that, right, then of course you're going to see the world as a negative place and people negative in general. Like, oh no, society is hopeless today. We're going to hell. This shit's going to shit. It's easy to, when all you feed yourself is negativity, of course, you're going to see the world in a negative light compared to someone who feeds himself nothing but positivity, right? Be a more positive individual. He would have more of a, like a chance that change would happen or is going to happen. My love bug is definitely up in the building. Love you, baby. Why should you stop the cash coming in? Why should you stop the cash coming in? Well, it depends. If the cash is coming in by people's lives being lost, then that's not a good reason, right? Or then that doesn't now excuse the behavior, right? Oh, well, it's bringing us money, though. Yeah, but at what cost, though? Do you think the tattoo is creepy? No, even though celebrities. Look, the way I see it, when it comes to this, is just my point of view on the individual. I think he did it. I think he's a pedophile. I think he's a fucking weirdo. I think he's twisted and sick in the head. I do believe that tattoo is because him and her had something going on that they weren't supposed to. So I believe that this was all just to push his sick fantasy that he has. I believe that he got it not because it's trending or because Rihanna. I believe that maybe that's where he got the idea, but he symbolizes it because of a different meaning to it, right? So I do believe that tattoo has to do with the situation. Like keep the fact that you're underage, it's our little secret. You get what I'm saying? So I believe that he did do it. I believe he's a weirdo and everything like that. But I'm not gonna come and say that he did, like, let's say, like, it's facts that he did it, because I don't know that to be so, right? I don't have the actual fact. This is just my opinion on the matter, right? This is just what I think. This is just me speculating, right? But I'm not gonna come and actually say that that's fucking facts that he did it, because I don't know that to be so, right? But I see that there's individuals that come and literally talk like if it, like, bro, he did do it 100, like, man, it's 100% facts. Like, well, no, I think he did it. But I'm not going to come and say that he, fucking, this is factual. Just what I think. You know what I'm saying? Dobbs also said that they should bring lynching back for criminals. Crazy, it seems like. I believe the death penalty should be on the table, but that's only because I am not religious. I don't believe I have no religious bond to me, right? So I believe that the death penalty should be on the table for individuals that just really cannot be rehabilitated for the most heinous of crimes. I believe they should be executed because clearly they're not going to change and they're a danger to society. That is just my opinion. I see it different if a person is, Christian or Catholic or whatever, and they seek the death penalty because, well, everything that you're reading in that book, you don't have the right to, say that somebody should take this person's life. Nobody has the right to take another person's life. You're supposed to find forgiveness in your heart. You're supposed to be, you should be able to see it in yourself to be able to forgive an individual. But because that's what you're literally, preaching and pushing, and this is what you believe, right? So now you're being a hypocrite, right? Now it's like, well, everything that you're telling people to go to church and preach and everything, then it's shit. Then you don't really truly believe it, because here you are saying that this individual should be executed. So which one is it? Is it you want to only pick and choose which ones you should stick to, or what, what it should be? You know what I'm saying? Like, then you truly don't believe the word of God, and you truly don't, you're truly not a, how can I say, like a saint, like you claim to be. Then you're like everybody else, but you're just pretending. Because if not, then explain your decision right here. The only way you can stop the kids from following in their footsteps, these individuals don't become from the streets because of these people. The only ones that could change individuals from becoming a part of the streets is the parents, and the parents only. The parents actually have to be in their kids' lives. The parents actually have to be parents. If not, then, I wish the best for that kid, but it's going to be, You know what I'm saying? Because trust me when I say that these individuals don't look up to these criminals or gangsters, or they don't, because of those individuals, not the reason why they joined the gangs. And I should know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my lunch break is over. We got to get back to it. It was good chopping it up with you guys.